Indigenous peoples in India, some of whom are known as Adivasis, have been historically dispossessed of customary land rights and displaced from ancestral lands. The majority of indigenous peoples in India live in forest lands. Displacement began in the 1700s when, in then colonial India, forest lands were recognized as being resource rich and were expropriated for economic reasons. Legislation was enacted to facilitate this economic exploitation of forest lands for extractive industry. After independence from colonial rule, the Indian government continued these policies of displacing indigenous forest peoples from their lands. This displacement has taken place not only for large-scale industrial extraction, but now also in the name of conservation. And the new legislation reflects this. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and the Forest Conservation Act of 1980 are examples of the newer legislation under the Indian government, which has relied on excluding communities, undermining ancestral land rights, and perpetuating what is known as ecological imperialism. In 2006, the Forest Rights Act was enacted in India. It is a landmark social justice law addressing displacement, recognizing land rights of indigenous forest peoples in India for the first time, and aiming at land tenure security. Besides restoring customary land rights, the Forest Rights Act contributes to a more structured conservation approach to increase tribal participation in the management of forest lands, and it recognizes community forest rights. Framed in progressive rights-based language, it has forced a new paradigm in which rights are now recognized, land rights for indigenous peoples. Looking at the issue of displacement of Adivasis from the perspective of indigenous land rights, the questions to be asked are: how can the competing issues of indigenous rights and of ecological conservation work in harmony to ensure both forests and their inhabitants are protected? Also, from a gender perspective, how does being displaced from their lands affect women differently, especially given that indigenous women are the knowledge holders of natural resource management, food and medicinal plants, for example, and women are the traditional custodians of forest biodiversity?